What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mike Yourself. And this week's video, we're going to cover the actual DSP and EQ on the Cerwin Vega / Diamond Audio Harley Davidson head unit. So this is for 2014 and up. Well, I should say 2014 to 2023. If you have a 2023 and a half with the bigger screen, the new technology, this won't fit in your bike. So just to make sure that's clear. And then if you have older bikes, they do have head units for the 2013 and below bikes. Check out their website, cerwinvega.com. When checking out, use promo code MikeItYourself. Get yourself a little bit of a discount there, save you a couple bucks. And yeah, I think you'll be very, very happy with the products that you get from them. So far, I have been blown away by the quality, but it kind of makes sense. These guys are legends in the industry, so yeah. Before we jump into this video, I do want to give a special shout out to Unique FLH 2941. So that's Unique FLH 2941. I'll try to put that somewhere here on the screen. Check out his channel. Really, really good dude. You know, providing some input, some feedback. I know he's working on a kit that will allow for folks to delete the rear bar, the grab bar. I don't know what the hell you want to call that bar, on like your older Road Kings. It's like your 2013 and belows, where you normally have that billboard friggin', you know, license plate setup done. So check out his channel. Want to say a huge thank out to him. You know, great information. Love it when people share and really try to help each other out. So check out his channel. All right, let's jump into this EQ, man. Okay, guys, so we're gonna jump right into this. This is the EQ / DSP on the head unit. I just wanted to run through this with you guys because, you know, as I've been messing around with a lot of audio, I've done a lot of learning. Now, I will tell you right up front, I am not an audio professional. I'm just your average Mike who has been playing with some really cool tools and found ways to improve how things sound with my audio systems. So that said, and if you're an audio person watching this and you think, hey Mike, there's a better way to explain that, absolutely 100%. Really appreciate it if you drop it in the comments below. Any help that we can provide to the community is welcomed help. So I appreciate that if you do. All right, so right off the bat, when you go into the DSP EQ settings, you get taken to the EQ Global. So this is kind of the high level, what you're probably used to with car stereos, home stereos that have an equalizer, right? And that is essentially you're setting the EQ for the entire system. So it doesn't care about anything other than you're telling it, oh, I want to increase the amount of the 25 hertz area versus the 16,000 hertz or kilohertz. You want to lower this. You can kind of see mine's a little bit in the smiley face, right? And so naturally I've done this over time personally, and in doing some research, what I found out is that the reason folks tend to lower the mid-range of the audio is because that's what we hear better as people, as humans. So we talk in the mid-range, and it's really the highs and the lows that we have more troubles hearing. So by default, people increase their bass, increase their highs, because they lack that sound, right? Now, I will say there is definitely influence on the bass side, right? Because there are people that just want to, you know, they want to bump it, right? And that's cool. So they're going to increase that bass by default. So anyhow, this EQ has that range of 25 hertz to 16,000 kilohertz. It has some presets that you can kind of mess around with. So if you want to do that, you also have the option for user, and then you could do a reset if that's what you want to do. So if you hit reset, bam, you start off with a flat deal. And what's really cool about this thing is it is literally just drag your finger across and you can get what you want. This screen does come up, and if you want to kind of hone in on a particular frequency, so like let's say the 25 hertz area, you can do that. So you can increase it this way if you want, which is there. I find it easier just to use your finger. And then if you want to reset it, you can reset it that way and then just exit out. right? So however you want to set yours up, you can. I recommend doing it with music playing, of course, so you can, you know, adjust that. But before you set this, or I guess it doesn't matter, before or after, there are a couple other settings that you need to think through, especially with the speakers in mind. So we're gonna go to the second page here. This is a little bit more of a generic deal where it's kind of like, you know, do you want more sound to the rear, to the front, to the left, to the right, your fade, right, your balance, that kind of stuff. There is a loudness option. You can turn it on and off. You got your fader balance link, and then your speaker output for 5 volts. Now, I've heard people using this to address some issues that they've had with amplifiers, not only just this head unit, but for a lot of different head units. I have mine turned on, but to be quite honest, I haven't experienced any issues where I needed that. So I don't know. It's just something out there. So if you're running into some problems, you might want to mess around with that, see if that has any influence. The big thing, I think, or not a big thing, but the repeating complaint that I heard or saw this tied to was hissing with the amplifier. Now I will tell you, let me straighten that out for you guys a little bit, that a lot of hissing with amplifiers is due to people turning the gain up too much. So if you turn your gain up and you're trying to treat it like volume because you want it to be louder, that's not the proper way. Now the true proper way, there is tools to do this, right? Like oscilloscopes and wands with microphones and all kinds of crazy stuff. For your average mic, you know, what you will want to do is, and this is how I do it at least, and this is my personal preference, is I will find where it does make that hissing sound and start dropping the gain, so that way as soon as the hissing is gone, that's where I leave it. Right now, that's my personal preference. That's how I do my setup. It may not work for everybody, but that's just, you know, I want to share my method to you know, what I do. And I usually do it with the volume, if not at 0, at like 1, because you'll hear the hissing over the actual music, and that's gonna bug you after a while, I promise you. All right, so now here comes a part where these next 2 pages, I would say, are, in my opinion, the most important ones. And it's because this is what's gonna allow you to adjust your speakers to be optimal for the music that you're playing. Now they give you 5 options up top. You can do it based on the front, the rear. You can do it based on your channels. And that's how you're gonna tweak things, right? So in this, what we're doing is we're eliminating certain bands of your speakers. So like if your speakers operate optimally between 100 hertz and 14 kilohertz, anything outside of that, you're kind of punishing your speaker, because that's not what it's set up for. That's not what it's best at. So the reality is, you know, can you use a screwdriver as a hammer? You sure can, but it's far better just to use the screwdriver to be a screwdriver, right? So that's basically what we're saying, is keep it in the range that it works best at. And the way you do that is by setting your high and your low frequencies. Now, it's a little backwards when you think about it. So you would think, hey, for the high, that's going to be my upper range, and for my low, that's going to be the lower range. And it's actually flipped. So like when you're setting your HPF, you're addressing how, I guess, what's the lowest frequency you want to pick up. Okay, and when you're doing your LPF, it's the highest frequency. Where do you want to cut that off at? Like, I want to stop at, you know, Whitney Houston high, not Mariah Carey high, right? So like that's like the difference. And then you have your slopes for each one. Now this one I had to do a little bit of research to kind of better understand how that worked, and there's so much more to this, so I'll tell you that right up front. Like there's different types, there's like named after people who invented it or whatever it is, right? Anyhow, the bottom line is you get options to decrease it, and it goes by 6s, so like 6, 12, 18, 24, and that's where it stops. Now what does that mean, right? Why would you select 24, we'll say, over 6 or whatever. And I look at it as it's kind of the it's almost like a dam, okay? And so if you have a lower number, so if you're at 6, what that means is it will allow some of the frequencies below or above, in this case 20 kilohertz, to get through to your speakers. It'll allow it. At 24, it's cutting it off, right? So anything above that, forget it, you ain't getting it, right? Same thing for the low. So if you look, you see this curve here, so that's saying like you're getting no action below the 100 hertz, and then all of a sudden it'll slowly bleed it in, right? So if I adjust this, let's take that down to 6. You see how so now it's allowing it. It's not as abrupt, right? It's not a hard stop. This is much more of a hard stop at 24, because I don't want anything below that, because the speakers aren't going to perform well. So what's the point of it? So with this setup, you can do that setting for your first, your second channel. Now, all of my speakers are the same, so easy peasy to adjust that. And once you get that set up, like you're just setting the parameters for your speaker to work in, the next thing is really fine-tuning each of the speakers. And the way you do that is here in your EQ comp, sorry. So with that, like I said, there's some bleed in. This is allowing you to really kind of fine-tune specifically your speakers, and you could address. So like you can see, this goes up to 16K and it's at 25 hertz. I have no setting for 25, 40. I do have a little bit for 63 because I do have some bleed in that I like to set up, and then so on, right? But kind of same thing, smiley face. So I'm saying, you know, in these speaker enclosures for the Harley Davidson, they're just not meant for low bass. That's just not your best thing. Mid bass and then your highs. That's it. If you want that bumping bass, you're gonna have to look at investing in subwoofers for your saddlebags, maybe your tourer pack, wherever you want to put it. But you're really not gonna get it from these enclosures. It's just too small. Yeah, you're just not gonna get it there. I'm sure there's probably somebody who did a custom thing that really allowed for the sound to bounce. You're not going to get that in the stock stuff. So if you want to invest tons of money in having Einstein put something together, cool, more power to you. I would love to hear how it sounds, but if you're just like me, then stock stuff, don't bother with that low stuff. It's either going to vibrate, there's going to be some, like, it's going to resonate, right? And you just don't want that. Anyhow, so that said, you can go through, do your settings. If you notice, my settings change a little bit between the different channels, and that's because I've got the rears in my tourer pack, and those enclosures are different. So I'm adjusting these based on my specific enclosure. The last page here, I've not used this, and basically it's kind of like, where are you sitting, right? So honestly, guys, you know, from an average mic's perspective, when you're setting up your EQ, the best recommendation, because people are like, how do you make it, you know, unless you want to take it in to have a professional fine tune your stuff, I say play it, and play it loud. Get out into a parking lot or something like that with your bike, and that way you can really turn up your music and hear it at its loudest, right? Like where you are gonna really be pushing it. Now the way I did it is I went out for a ride. I kind of flattened everything and went out for a ride, and I wanted to see how loud was I gonna turn the volume up as I rode, and use that as my baseline, my foundation for the high end. So in this case, I think I went up to like the volume setting of 20, right? So I knew at 20, that was where I could hear the music pretty damn good. It was pretty loud. And then I went to a parking lot, turned up my volume to that 20 level, and it sounded like junk, but that's because I hadn't really set up my, or I had not at all set up my EQ to a good place. And then I was able to fine tune everything. And at that same level of volume, it went from sounding really bad because of, you know, the lack of control over the frequencies, to it sounding crystal clear and at the same time loud as hell, man. It's awesome. I love it. So yeah, so that's my recommendation. Do it with your volume up and you can really hear an amazing sound. So that's it on this. That's how you use these pages. It's pretty straightforward, like I said. Remember, your important ones are your crossover and your EQ comp. I think that's really where the magic happens. This does have influence on it, but that's the global, right? That's the old way of thinking. The new and improved way of doing things. I say new like probably 30 years or more. I don't know, I'm sure the music guys in the business knew this a long time ago, but for us as regular consumers, having the DSP to really fine-tune stuff makes a huge difference in how we listen to our music. So let me drop a little bit of tunes for you so you can hear how mine sounds, and I hope that you're able to use this video to help you fine-tune yours and get some amazing sound. So until my next video, I hope to see you in the wind. All right, guys, so let's drop a couple of tunes. I'll cover a couple of genres really quick. Actually, we're gonna do two. We're gonna do two just to be honest. So we'll do some rap-ish kind of music and then a real quick rock thing. If you're looking for something outside of that, the reality is this: once you get it fine-tuned, man, it's gonna be based on your liking. So just enjoy it. But I wanted to share with what my sound sounds like and what yours can as well.
But you never treat me different. Talking about a future, but I wonder what you're picturing. All you do is run me in a circle, ain't forgiving me. I lost my time, then I lost my mind. You're the reason why I toss around in bed all night. Overwhelmed and suffocated all along those lines. Broken hearted every time you tell a lie. Mayday, I'm here. You got me falling down. I'm clearly distressed, but you won't make a sound. You choose all your efforts, you're up, then you're down. This love isn't normal, it's killing me now. Feeling like I'm on a